Welcome to Fridays with Father Geckle, a weekly show covering tradition, culture, and news on the Traditionalist Podcast.
Well, a very happy New Year to you all. Father and I are kind of smiling because I botched the opening in the first time and had to redo it. So the things that go on behind the scenes, you would definitely laugh. We'll have to save that for a blooper reel and for posterity, I suppose. But Father and I would like to wish you all a very happy New Year. This is our first official show, though we have done one already and tried to do two. The other one unfortunately didn't work out because of the internet. And so everyone right now, say a prayer. I guess you don't have to say a prayer because if you're watching this, the internet must have been good enough. So, Father, I guess you and I are going to be the ones who have to say a prayer. And someone said I need to sprinkle all the equipment with holy water, and I think I have not done it. I think I need to do it. I think, especially if I keep having internet issues. But today, Father and I are going to have it's going to be
that. I'm sorry, it's that, or we just need to learn how this equipment works.
That could be too. Though I'm telling you, Father, part of it is I live in a caveman era internet in Germany. It's really strange. It's really, for whatever reason, the internet is terrible, even though you would think Germany, with all these engineers and stuff, no, it's not good. But I also live in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. So that's part of it. And so I think weather comes and blah, blah, blah. But we'll do our best. And today, I think it's going to be a really interesting show. It's going to be actually fun because for us, we get to talk about pretty much everything that happened in the last year. And that gives us a lot of really interesting topics. And I'm sure I'm going to miss some. I just literally kind of watched a couple of videos today that had ABC News, recap of 2024 and got some of the things that struck me as the most interesting. And so, Father, I guess first of all, Happy New Year. How you doing, Father?
Happy New Year to you and all the listeners. Hopefully it's a good one.
Too. Yeah, hopefully better than 2024. Though 2024 wasn't a terrible year, I suppose. I mean, some good things happened. I think Donald Trump being elected was a generally good thing. I had another baby. That was a good thing.
Yeah, that
was a big one. Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, and the world heading towards a better era. I think. I really think it is, and that's something.
Let's hope so.
We'll talk about a lot. I think in the future podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Europe, especially going in a populist direction. I don't know if that's necessarily traditionalist, but I'll take it over liberal. So.
Hey, if we're backing away from the cliff, that's better than jumping
into
over
that.
It.
Speaking of cliffs, Father, the first thing I want to talk about in this year, and we're not going to. I didn't do it chronologically. It's kind of just whatever struck my fancy. That's kind of, as everyone knows by now, it's just kind of how I roll. And I wanted to bring back to mind the Paris Olympics, and this was pretty wild. And it was actually something that I literally couldn't play a video from this because there was too much. Inappropriate images. It was too indecent. I literally was like, nope, definitely not. Nope. Okay. Nope. And so it's actually already an issue with the Olympics. And it's something that you really find you can't watch a lot of them, a lot of the events because the women are half dressed. It's terrible. It's just like, really, okay, well, can't watch that. I guess you're watching soccer. Maybe, I suppose that might still be okay. Maybe, I don't know what else is still appropriate.
Yeah, you have to be selective.
You have
to be selective with what you watch. And
Winter Olympics are the way to go, I suppose. That is much safer.
Certainly.
But one of the big events. So the big thing that I'm not even going to show it because it's horrific. They had the opening ceremony with blasphemous images of drag people pretending to be women who are men, doing like the poses of the Last Supper. So really, truly, like the most. Yeah. Like, Father, is there a more horrible way to begin an Olympics? I mean,
well, if you're trying to draw down God's wrath and Satan's blessing, that's a great way to start it off. It's a pretty common theme. I mean, in the entertainment industry, mocking Catholicism. There's so many examples of it. I guess there shouldn't be a surprise, There shouldn't be a surprise that these godless satanic groups and individuals that absolutely hate Catholicism, start out by parading this abomination in front of the whole world as their way to start out their entertainment.
But they did lose viewers, though. Surprise, I think they did. I think they actually did get sung by it. And that was the nice thing. It was like I think that it hurt them.
That's a great positive of this past year, I think, is that there's been a little bit less fear of repercussions. People are a little bit more in general, people are a little bit more willing to speak their mind when there's something that is so offensive and so wrong on our side. Now, the other side it says, if you use the wrong pronoun, I'm offended and how dare you and cancel you. Whereas the other side has gotten used to turning the other cheek when they shouldn't. When it's something that is if somebody hurts you, there's certain times where we follow our Lord's advice, turn the other cheek. But when it's an offense against God, that's not something that we should just kowtow to and say, oh, well, it's just the way they are, just the way it is. So yeah, that's definitely a positive that I see, that there's more of a response of what the heck, why can we just stop with the satanic weird stuff? Can we just stop with that?
Well, speaking of
satanic
and turning the other cheek, here is an image. Sorry, a little immodest. Sorry for that, Father, and everyone else. I figured it was just maybe okay to share, but this one I wanted to share because the man on the right of the picture is, well, as I said, a man boxing against the woman on the left. That was another thing that happened in this Olympics, where a man got into the ring, a biological man, and beat the heck out of a bunch of women and won the gold. Again, speaking of satanic and backwards and bizarre, but again, Father, I think you would agree. I don't know if you followed that story much, but I actually followed it quite a bit, and there are a lot of people like I listen fairly often to Piers Morgan because I find him interesting. He's an interesting voice, and he's
not a
pretty liberal, but he does, exactly. He does actually sometimes express, his actual opinion. And this was one where he really got behind it, like, hey, this is totally wrong, and we can't do this. And it was another little hopeful moment where, like, okay, people are actually getting the guts to say, guys, this can't happen.
Yeah. And there's few things that make me as infuriated as a man beating up a woman like that.
Right.
And in front of all of these millions of people watching, it's on public display. It's so wrong. It's so detestable. So yeah, I'm glad there's a backlash against that. I hope that there's actually a lasting effect of that. People not watching the Olympics. I don't know any figures, but wasn't this like a very, very low?
It was.
The Olympics
didn't look it up either.
People were like, I'm not watching this garbage. So money, follow the money. People that are running these things, they hate God, they hate Catholicism, but they love money. So they got to have their revenue. They got to have their revenue. So they'll
absolutely.
change.
Well, let's move on to the next story, Father. This is an interesting one, and this is one that honestly totally kind of passed me by really quickly, and that is Julian Assange being released from prison. Now, I'm just going to briefly read through this because I think it's really pretty interesting. I mean, he was arrested in Sweden because he had really kind of just trumped up charges of sexual misconduct, which they dropped because there was literally no evidence. And then they eventually they put him in prison where was it, in London, right? So he eventually had to seek asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London in June 2012. In April 2019, Ecuador withdrew his asylum and he was arrested by British authorities. So he was in the embassy for 7 years and then in prison for I guess that would be 5 almost. And this is pretty wild. This is from cryptonews.com, by the way, so that's the crypto connection. But I don't know, Father, if you have much of an opinion on Julian Assange. I think he's kind of a tough one. I don't really know what to think. What are your opinions?
I haven't followed the story a whole lot. I mean, I heard headlines come out as different events unfold, especially this past year. But well, I mean, what other opinion is there other than government corruption is exposed and then the government comes after you? I mean,
that's it.
What else is it?
It's like, and he was a journalist. He wasn't the one. He didn't hack anything. He didn't. That was what was the guy's name before he changed to a woman? Chelsea Manning. What was his name? Again, his name. Sorry, YouTube. We're gonna get banned after our first show here. But that I understand because that was someone who, even Snowden, like I'm kind of a Snowden fan, but he worked for the government and hacked things and released private documents. That's a really dangerous line. Now, I think what he released was a good thing for people to know, but you can't just have people releasing that kind of information. So that one's more harder. But Assange, dude was just a journalist. He just got this information. It's like, hey, yeah, I got this. I made sure it's legit, and I'm going to release it. And he got put in prison for years for that? No way. As you said, just hurt the wrong people.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to expose the corruption, the corrupt people are going to come after you. And well, where else do you go? I mean, how else do you release this kind of information? I don't know what the right call is to do in this thing, but if there's evil, and in this evil, if it's not called out, it's going to continue and get much, much worse if there is an awareness brought to it. So what do you do with that? I mean, you have a conscience. You have to follow your conscience. And certain laws are a violation of divine law, of natural law. So what do you do? You follow the law of the state when it goes against divine law. I'm not calling for lawlessness here. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and there has to be some kind of awareness brought to these things. Otherwise, they're just going to continue and get much worse. We'll have even more of a police state than they already do.
Yeah, it is. It's a great question of I guess morality of what are you allowed? Because Snowden's again, it's a great example of he released the information the government was illegally spying on its own people. And I think even to a point, wasn't there even a point where they were even like killing their own people? I don't take my word for that, but it got extreme. It got really extreme, and it was like, and he released it. But again, I also get why the government's like, hey, you can't do that, because that is a dangerous. So it is. You kind of get both sides, I suppose. But I think you're right, Father. Yeah. I mean, I think I lean towards thinking Snowden is more of a hero. But for me, Assange is pretty easy. It's like certainly should never been put in prison. I mean, what? Right. I mean, what are we talking? I mean, it's kind of a gray area. I think some of the things he released, he shouldn't release. He should have redacted some stuff probably because again, you got to be careful with this kind of stuff. But prison for 6 years or whatever, that's insanity. And what's weird is Biden released him and Trump didn't. What?
Yeah, there's some weird things about that. Pardons and releases and stuff that. I know some people that were really critical of Trump because he was in office while you had the January 6th people, getting wrongfully persecuted there, and he should have pardoned them there and then before he left office, and he didn't. So I don't know what the backstory of that is. I'm sure we might have some comments on that from the viewers here.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, but comment on that. I'm curious to hear people's feedback on that. Whether Trump was like, he knew what was going on or didn't think it was going to go that bad, or if he just couldn't be bothered. I find that kind of difficult because it seems like he's really, he seems to really care about the people around him or his loyal followers and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that.
I don't know why he didn't release Assange. There are a lot of things that Trump didn't do that were very strange, and especially in his last year or so, where you could tell, first of all, he's running for re-election, but then when he lost, as you said, and he was also pardoning people that was really weird. I mean, like a couple that were very strange that you could tell that maybe he had checked out. Maybe he was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to take a couple years off, and at this point, I don't really care. Maybe he was upset. It's a good question, and it is.
And you wonder who's whispering in his ear about it. Because who's whispering in his ear about, this is what really happened, and we can't do this because it's not politically expedient. Who knows what that is? But man, you look at what the other side is doing. You look at how many pardons Biden is dishing out now. I mean, like they're on their way out, so they got to protect people, that should be, should be prosecuted. But the Julian Assange thing is, man, if he did wrong, if he broke some laws, if there was harm done, well, the punishment needs to fit the crime, and if there was some crime. Still, there's all of this good that came out that he, good effects of it that has to have some bearing on a just outcome.
Absolutely, yeah. Curious to see what he does too. I mean, he pled guilty to. I don't even know. I guess I should have read the rest of that article. Espionage, I suppose. But he's back in Australia now, and I imagine he's just going to be mum for the rest of his life. But what an interesting character, and it all was back in 2012. Crazy.
The legal system, don't mess with the rich plea deals and stuff.
Well, look at Hunter Biden. Good grief. he is free of everything he's done within a 10-year span. That's a wild thing for me. Like, look, if you want to just say to your son, we're going to say this crime, the gun crime, we expunge that and we pardon it. Okay, fine. If I was president and my son had a gun crime, I probably would too. I mean, at least I would think about it, right? I get it. Is my point. But just saying like everything he's done in 10 years, we're just going to expunge all of it, so no one can do anything. It's insane, absolutely insane.
I saw this great meme. I'll have to put it in post production. It's of Biden, and he's by a whiteboard, and it says Bidenomics on top. It says 1, you pay taxes. 2, I send it to Ukraine. 3, they send it back to Hunter. 4, Hunter gives it to me. 5, pardon Hunter. It's like, that's Bidenomics for you right there.
I like it. Oh man, yeah. All you got to do is get to be president, and you get very, very rich and can do anything you want. It's a as much of a dictatorship as they pretend that Trump wants to be. All right, so moving on. Yeah. This is an interesting one, and this is one that Father, actually, I don't know if I asked you if this affected you, but that was the Hurricane Helene. That was the big one, right? I think that was the big one. I think.
Yes.
I'm going to share real quick this video. Let's hope the video works. I've had problems with this lately, but just a quick 1 minute view of drone footage. Just crazy.
I can't imagine.
Do you see it?
Video's cutting out. It's kind of choppy there, but
it's choppy. Oh man, boy. That's going to be a problem. Yeah. That is going to be a problem. All right. Well, it's good to do it for that video.
I think pretty much everybody's.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everybody's seen the destruction. It's shared quite a bit. But North Carolina, the flooding and destruction caused $53 billion or more in damages. And I don't know. I just they say that some 220,000 households are expected to apply for federal assistance. Wow. It really. I can't imagine living through something. America, we're very comfortable. I mean, most Western countries are. We're very comfortable. We can't even wrap our heads around what it's like to grow up in a third world country and not have our Wi-Fi and tap water and all these other things that are so easy. Electricity. I can't imagine what it's like, what those people are going through. And it really highlights. An underlying issue here is well. Preparedness for one thing. I mean, like having food and other things on hand if we do lose electricity, if we do have some natural disasters. But then at the same time, it's like you have these houses that you might have had. I'm sure you had preppers out there that spent a lot of money and other thing on months' supplies of food and everything, and it's washed away. It's gone.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of natural disasters that you can't prepare for, and it's a reality. It's just a reality that. If you can prepare and have some things in case power outage or other problems, great. But it's not the be all end all. You can't plan for everything.
Well, and wasn't that even in the mountains of North Carolina? I mean, of all places, you're not thinking you're going to get flooding damage, right? I mean, I imagine you're thinking, yeah, okay, we're pretty safe up here. I doubt you're protecting anything against floods, right? I mean, obviously they're on a river, but I mean, you don't expect a hurricane to come up that far and to affect your river that badly, and just total. I don't want to say fluke. I mean, obviously it's got willed by God, but I mean, just not something you can, as you said, exactly, you can't plan for.
Yep, but there's another issue here. What I was reading up on this was that a lot of the problems were caused by the dams that they had damming up the river, and they were backing up to capacity, and they had to release the water, and I haven't read up enough to really speak much about it, but it sounds like we have a nationwide problem with we definitely have a nationwide problem with infrastructure. It's read one.
Ukraine doesn't anymore though, so
that's a good thing. I bet they do. I bet. Right. Yeah. You really think that the money is going to actually help people?
Yeah. How insane is that, though? You're so right, Father. I mean, what is it? Isn't it like $500 billion now or something? Something like that, I think, to Ukraine.
I lost
it's nearing that at least. And to imagine that money could have been spent on bridges and dams, or should have been spent on bridges and dams and schools or roads or whatever. I mean, literally what the government. I mean, obviously, there's a whole huge topic. But that whole idea of giving your money to anyone, and I really mean anyone. So even I think the only example of maybe possibly giving that much money is like, say Haiti is totally wiped out and you're saying, hey, we're going to give $1 billion to help them back on their feet. Okay, there's an argument there. But to do it while our country's $130 trillion in debt and has no infrastructure is insane. It's absolutely insane. It's like me saying, hey, I'm broke and in debt, by hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm probably going to get kicked out of my house, but I'm going to give the guy down the street, you know,
right.
100,000 of money that I don't have. And that's the best case. That's actually saying that it's actually going to Ukraine to help people, which I agree. It's not. So it's
Right.
it's insane. Totally insane.
It's in your analogy. It's giving the money to a guy down the road that you know has a gambling addiction, and he's going to take it straight to the casino.
Yeah,
so it's actually
your
not
casino.
helping out. Yeah, right. It's actually not helping the family or anything. But here's some stats for you. National spending on infrastructure has fallen to its lowest level in 70 years. 2.5% of the national GDP. That's half the comparable level in Europe and 1/3 the level in China. So you got even Europe and well, especially China. They're spending a heck of a lot more than the U.S. Of their GDP on infrastructure and planning for the future, which we are not. American Society of Civil Engineers estimated in its 2021 report that 6.1 trillion is needed just to repair our nation's infrastructure. Yeah, where our federal debt is over 34.8 trillion, and the interest alone is topping a trillion per year. I think that's out of date stats because I think it's at like 1.3 or 1.5.
So here's a question, Father. I don't know if you know this, but is infrastructure always covered by the federal government? I mean, and obviously it's got to be some of it's covered by the
what
states.
What are taxes for?
Yeah, right. But that's right. That's a good question, right?
Well, and see, that's something I guess I don't. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. What's covered by federal things?
What percentages?
What's covered by state?
Yeah, right. It's got to be. It's got to be a percentage of both. I remember when you drove from Omaha to Colorado. As soon as you got to Colorado, the roads got worse, and unfortunately, but that's how it was. And you could really tell immediately there were taxes that had been spent or something had happened to make it so that the roads were much worse. And I think it is interesting. And you do see in Germany, I tell you, you drive on the Autobahn and you will never, ever see problems on the Autobahn and the road ever. Like, it doesn't happen. Like they can't. Part of it because you can drive so fast that if there's a pothole, you're dead. You're very much in trouble. But it's still, you're right. I think they just spend more money on it and they just say, nope, there will not be a problem with our Autobahn, and thus it isn't.
They're smart.
Pretty incredible.
I mean, it's smart. Over here, we're pretty dumb. We the general population doesn't bat an eye at sending billions to countries that are that we know are corrupt, while we let our roads and bridges and dams and everything else decay. Whether I don't know what is covered by the state or what's supposed to be covered by the federal government, but there's an awful lot of taxes being paid by American citizens that are not going to this country's interests or needs, and it's going to fund gender studies somewhere else. It's going to fund abortions. It's going to all of these evil, corrupt, awful purposes, and we have bridges collapsing, and we have cities failing, and we have dams. It's just.
So I think what you need is you need someone like Donald Trump. He's not going to do it, but or someone like Javier Milei in Argentina to come in and say, everyone who's ever taken a cent from donors or whatever is gone. Anyone who's ever signed a bill for their own personal interest group is gone. You're gone. Everyone, you're all out of the government. I'm cutting you. Like, honestly, Father, we need a dictator. I mean, like, I really, I know people are going to hate me saying that, but people think, oh, he's going to ruin this country. Guys, the country is already ruined. What are we missing here? It is ruined. The people who have run this as a democracy have ruined it. It is ruined. And it's going to take $6 trillion just to fix the infrastructure. That's not talking about schooling. That's not talking about, all sorts of other, just the government lack of control of themselves. You need a dictator probably to come in and say, you're all gone, you're all fired, all of you.
If we're dealing with a bureaucracy, which we are, where you have all of these interested parties that are helping each other out, propping each other up, supporting each other so they don't all go down together, they're all comfortable in their positions. You need someone or a group of people that are outside of that system, that aren't controlled by that system, to come in and change things. What's the point of a government if it enslaves its people? What's the point? What's the point of a government if it harms its people? It's supposed to help its people. It's supposed to protect its people.
Exactly.
And it's not what the interest of our government is at all. No. So a dictator, our media is, obviously there's a lot of bad dictators in the past, obviously, 100%, no argument there. Right. But What about George Washington? What about these founding fathers that came in and say, hey, this government is now, some people could argue that what they did wasn't right, or that it wasn't actually the will of the majority of the people, whatever. Anyway, just if we go with the common example of what they say the history was, you had a few people that said, hey, this is tyrannical. Our taxes are so and so percent. This is unjust, and we're going to rebel. They hold them up as these wonderful people. Well, our government is a lot more corrupt than the English government was back then.
Yeah,
our bureaucracy here is a lot. The tax,
crazy.
I don't remember what the stat was, but the percentage of taxes that they were rebelling against, the tax on tea,
like 2%
so small in comparison to what
the
taxes are today. It's even worse, like up in Canada, from what I understand. So it's like, what good is this government? What good are these governments as they are, if they're so unjust and
this is what's wild, Father, is that you read like medieval history, which I've been reading a lot lately, and so they also had heavy taxes, and people were upset a lot all the time, but they were either like say Richard the Lionheart, because he wanted to he taxed the people to do a crusade, and it's like, okay, all right, fair enough. But usually it was because I read mostly British history, so it's mostly because the kings wanted to go and attack France and claim land. So I'm not saying that's right, but it's logical. Like, I get it. It's like, hey, we need money so we can go get more land for our country, so we can grow, so we can conquer. And again, morality, I'm just saying the logic. And now, exactly, you look and you see all of what's happening, and it's like, but where? And it's so insane that it's not the actual, it's not even the country. It's not this big thing. It's just private people. It is Nancy Pelosi or whoever, the governor of excuse me, of Michigan or whatever, who have their own pet projects, and they send it to Paraguay to study gender studies, or they send it to Ukraine exactly to funnel it back, which again is an absolute insanity that we know that Ukraine was being used to filter money from other countries back into the pocket. But like that was known before, far before this most recent war. So they were known as like the most corrupt country in the world, or in Europe for sure. And all of a sudden now they're just the bastion of hope and truth in the world. It's so dumb. It's just like, how does this happen? Anyway, we got to keep moving on. Speaking of dictators, see, Father, we could do each one of these topics for sure for 30 minutes. But
I think so.
But we have to at least cover Trump's assassination attempt. I'm not going to try to play the video because it's just going to be glitchy. Everyone remembers. That's a pretty amazing. I'll ask you, Father, that what do you think? And I'm sure you would agree with me. We both don't think Trump is the savior who's going to come and save. I mean, he's not a. I don't think he's very moral. He's not even Christian. Maybe he's Christian. I don't even know. Anyway, do you think that was a God intervening? Trump turning his head at the exact moment that it hit his ear rather than going right through his head. I mean, I don't know. That there's certainly an argument. I know there's no coincidences, but that one being a direct intervention, it's an interesting idea, at least.
Well, what I'll say is I don't believe the narrative that it was staged. I don't believe it was staged. I don't believe he had I don't think it was fake blood. I don't think it was real, or I don't think that is real.
Yeah.
Could I be wrong? Sure, but I don't think so. I don't think at all that it was that kind of staged. I think it was a real attempt on his life. I'd like to think that it's divine intervention. I'd like to think that, I know some people will attack me for that position for sure.
Our black pillars probably aren't watching us anyways. Huh?
There's the camp of the Trump is the white knight chosen by God and he's our savior. Right. And I'm 100% not in that camp at all.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I'm not in the camp that he's absolute evil and that there can be nothing good that comes out of this. I do believe that. Again, it's a belief. It's my opinion. Whatever worth it is. I do think that was obviously permitted by God. Divine intervention, I don't know, but it certainly happened, and I think it's a very good thing because it galvanized a lot of people. It certainly got more people to the polls, and I think it made this election too big to rig. Again, people will say that, oh, it doesn't matter anyway, he's part of it, and they wanted this to happen. I don't believe that because the media freaked out. Yeah, the media, the people in power, the establishment don't like this guy. They don't like this guy. They don't like what he stands for. They don't like the people that are behind him.
Yeah.
There's, I don't, yeah, I think it was a good thing. It's, it got a lot of people to be like, okay, that's too far.
Yeah.
We're done with this narrative of Trump is Hitler and we got to try to take him out.
Exactly.
You went too far. No more.
Well, and how wild was that narrative that, you know, that's how it was, right? Trump is the worst person. He is Hitler. That's really what they were saying. They were taking the worst possible person to be president, and then he gets elected, and he's going and shaking hands with Biden and laughing with Biden's wife, and you know, everyone's just cozying up to him like it's just a normal election. It's just insane. It's all nonsense. I mean, I think that they're just playing the game, trying to get the votes, trying to turn him into Hitler so that no one will vote for him. It's just in the end, they're like, yeah, we don't like him, but you know, we know that he's not going to do all these things we say he's going to do. You know, he's not going to put people in camps. They know that. They don't actually think he's going to do that. They're just trying to, you know, have a narrative. And I think the news channels, that's another, again, good thing from 2024. CNN is done. They're like they barely exist anymore. ABC, they are like, we can watch them collapse. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's, if there's any good thing Trump has done, that's it. Like he has actually woken
100%.
up the US and I think the world to the fact that the media is hand in hand with the government and they are not in it for the betterment of the people at all, ever. And I think he opened their eyes to that.
It's been like that for so long. It's been like that for so long. And Trump became the target of that. Trump became the target of the media's ire, their wrath, and their dishonesty. You know, they were propping up half in the grave Biden as this. You see those montages that are just so hilarious, where they're saying he's sharp, he's intelligent, he's wise, he's on the ball, talking about Biden, and you have all of these different people that they're trumping that narrative. I was just with him last week, and you know I can't keep up with him. It's like, are you serious? It's absolute. That's absolute nonsense. And yet, so yeah, that I don't. Yeah, Trump is Trump, and I'm more hopeful of the movement that's behind him. Again, there's a lot of problems there, but I'll take the MAGA movement. I'll take the Maha movement over trans the kids. Abortion needs to happen up to and including birth and all of these other problems. One is definitely better than the other. Are either of them perfect? Duh, it's not perfect. We know that. There's a lot of, you know, I'm not a conservative even. Not a conservative. I know that's something I want to talk about one of these days. I'm not a conservative. I'm
maybe tomorrow. I got to shout that out real quick, Father, that we do have a live stream show tomorrow. Again, this is publishing on Friday. So on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, Father's going to be there. I'll be there. I just heard my dad's sick. It's my dad's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday. We're recording. So Thursday, it's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. Hopefully he's there, but he's sick. But we'll hopefully have a bunch of the hosts from this channel who will be there. So it's that's going to be pretty exciting, our first live show, and we'll definitely talk, of course, about Trump.
Sorry, I digress there. The thing was about the Trump assassination and whatnot. But yeah, what do you think? I know what you think, but
I actually, I'm not actually that sure. I do. It's so insane what happened that it does seem like it's got to be somehow providential. That's just to say that's luck that he just went like this and it hit his ear, because I think it hit his ear.
No,
there's no way. I don't know. And so, come on, a guy got shot. A guy died. I mean, we know his name. I mean, two or three other people got hit with bullets. I mean, this wasn't just faked. I mean, I don't buy that. I mean, it's weird. What happened was very strange that a guy got on that roof in the middle of the Secret Service.
That's weird. The Secret Service and CIA are very good at assassinating.
Yeah, that's true.
And allowing it to happen.
That's another really good topic, which I hope that first week or the January 20th week, man, I'm so hoping that Trump releases the JFK files, which he says he's going to.
I've never heard you say that before, Kevin. This is the first time
I know,
I've heard you
right?
say.
I never ever bring up JFK on this show. Anyway.
Well, hey, it's a news show. You can bring it up newly here, I guess.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Exactly.
It's a fresh day.
Oh man, I'm gonna just every show I'm gonna bring up JFK. I mean, for those again who are new, I really do think that is okay. I think Hiroshima was where things really started to go bad, but then I think JFK was where I was like, no, we're not even pretending anymore. We're just gonna shoot the president and we don't care. Okay. Anyway, next we got 2 more topics, and I want to wrap this up fairly quickly. This is pretty interesting. Notre Dame, I suppose you should say, in Paris, the Grand Cathedral, reopened. This was a couple months ago. Here's the image of. It's not a great picture. That's still nice enough. You can see part of the high altar. That was, and the one on the right side, of course, is after the fire, which was, of course, set on accident. Of course, just
definitely,
just like all of the other 150 Catholic churches throughout France. Just happened to be randomly catch on fire when all these Muslim immigrants come to your country.
There are
really strange.
Individuals that hate Christian culture,
right? Exactly, and have stabbed priests.
They do not exist.
Exactly, no, they don't.
Only Catholics are evil.
Exactly. Right. And that's actually a really good book I want to recommend. I'll do another show. There's a great book that I'm reading right now. We'll talk about maybe next week with Father. Anyway, there's the after the ceiling fell. You still see that the high altar remained standing, which is amazing. I think that is one of the most incredible images where you see what has happened to the supposed Catholic Church and what actually is, right, the Catholic Church. God and Our Lady, and the crumbles of the buildings around it. And I wanted to show you, though, this is, so they redid it. They fixed everything up, very, very nicely, of course, Father, in the idea of the past, right? Oh, no, actually, that's the new high altar in Notre Dame.
Seriously, this is the first time I've seen this. I didn't follow this story at all because
you didn't follow this, Father? Yeah,
I didn't follow it all. I heard it was reopening, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, I kind of expected something like this, but that's wow.
That's it. That's
crazy.
Yep.
Oh boy, that's inspirational, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? Wow. Isn't it just amazing? Just beautiful. No, you just see though exactly, and you knew they were going to do something, as you said, Father. Fortunately, the ceiling looks plenty fine. It's not as it was. Because you know why? That's another, again, that could be an entire show. Maybe I'll do that sometime. Oops, that's the wrong one. That the ceiling was so intricately connected with wooden beams that they literally can't do it anymore. They don't have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. No one knows how.
Yeah.
So they had to do it with kind of basic stone.
They're not as smart as the people in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, exactly. Bunch of idiots.
Yeah, no, but it's no surprise, and like I said, I didn't really follow the story because it's just this is what you come to expect from the post-Vatican II institution that they call the Catholic Church. That is false. It's the gutting of these beautiful buildings, this beautiful architecture dedicated to God for His glory, there to house the Blessed Sacrament, Jesus Christ present in that sacrament, and the where the holy sacrifice of the Mass is offered, but they have to do the Judas thing and in not keep anything nice and glorious for God. It has to be stripped of that. They keep the outside shell. It's almost to me it's a mockery of abomination, really, of keeping the outside of the past, but taking out the center, gutting it, and putting in this modern ugly architecture for their ugly services that are not Catholic. And that's something you see throughout the world. You could see so many examples of that post-Vatican II, of these churches that were gutted. They're absolutely beautiful before, and they took out the altars, they took out the statues, and they destroyed it. They burned it. I've talked to many people that they were burning. One of the chalices that somebody gave me, an old friend gave me when it's a small, very simple travel chalice. This guy got it. This gentleman got it from the old priest told him to burn it, just throw it on the fire. He didn't know it was in there, and he saw it and he grabbed it. It's like, wow. They just threw so much stuff out. There's a lot of the old high altars from the cathedrals around Chicago and area and all that stuff that are in the bottom of the Great Lakes. They just dumped them there because they hated it so much.
Crazy.
But anyway, I digress. But man, this is my first time seeing that. It's
incredible,
really
right?
Sad. That's really, can you imagine? Can you imagine the people that designed the original looking at that? Can you imagine what they would think?
Yeah.
It's like they got out of barbaric times. They got out of the uneducated, uncivilized eras and built up civilization to that incredible place where they could do wonders like this, design things like that. And then centuries later, they're like, yeah, we want to go back to the uncivilized barbaric times. That's great. We're going to kill our children and we're going to have these ugly, disgusting architecture, modern art. Yeah. Sad.
We are living in the ruins of a greater civilization, right? And I think that's far too true. I've been there, and I thought before the fire. So I was there before the fire, and I already thought that it was God. God is not in that church anymore. It's just unfortunate. You can kind of feel it. You know, some of these modern churches, and this is not modern; it's ancient, but you can just tell it's a museum. It's just, you know, it was once consecrated. Of course, there were once great priests and saints and the holy and the mass, and of course Christ himself was there. It's not anymore, and you can feel it. You really feel it when you walk in the door.
Shell.
Yeah, it is. It's just it was once something, and now it is certainly nothing, and that's very sad. Okay, last topic. Got to be a quick one. We wanted to, we were joking before. I was joking before this joke. I got to be careful what I say, because I was like, we're going to end on a kind of a light note, because it's sports. So it's like, okay, we'll end with sports. But then it's like, okay, yeah, but we're going to mention that Pete Rose died. So it's like, well, it's not very light. But
Kevin has a very different idea of cheerful topics.
I know. It's kind of dark, yeah. But Pete Rose, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, leads all history in hits. I mean, you look at his stats; they're incredible. You got to be a baseball fan to understand it. So I'm not going to read through his stats. I'm sorry, everyone's going to be like, "What are you talking about?" But anyway, one of the greatest of all time. He did not make it into the Hall of Fame because he bet on sports, and even though they I think it's proven, I think he never bet against his team. So I understand why he was kicked out of the game. He couldn't manage, couldn't play. Get it? Like, I think that's fair. The fact that one of the top 5 probably players of all time is not in the Hall of Fame because of that. Father, what do you think? You have any opinions on Pete Rose?
I'll be honest, I don't really know much about him at all.
Oh, yeah. Father, I thought you were a baseball fan. What?
I grew up playing baseball. I love baseball, but my
Pete Rose
knowledge of history of the game isn't so great. Because that's kind of what happens when you join the seminary when you're still a teenager and you stop watching sports for many, many years. But please continue. I do love the game, and I do respect those.
That's about it. I mean, I just think it's especially now that he died. There's just, I hope he gets in this year. I mean, there's no reason for him not to be in. He made big mistakes. He should not have bet on sports. It's a dumb thing to do. But there are guys. I mean, you know, there are like murderers who are in there, or at least assumed murderers. There are people who are terrible, terrible, horrible human beings, and they're in the Hall of Fame because, you know, they were really good baseball players.
I mean, rules are rules, but what's the purpose of that rule? Like, what's the problem about betting on?
I understand. I mean, like, if you bet against that was the famous White Sox, right? The Black Sox. You know, they bet against their team to lose the World Series, and all the players got kicked out of the league. So you can understand why it's a very dangerous. Yeah, it's a really interesting story, actually. Shoeless Joe Jackson. Anyone who's interested. That's a really interesting story to look up, because he was the one guy who actually almost surely didn't cheat because his numbers were amazing, but he still got expelled from baseball forever. And he almost surely would have been one of the top 10 baseball players of all time too, but got booted from the league because all of his other teammates cheated through the series. Yeah. Really, really interesting. But you see why you shouldn't. I mean, that makes sense, not betting, but and again, I understand why he was expelled from the league, but not being in the Hall of Fame because of his numbers. Yeah, sure. It's nuts. Totally nuts. I'll talk with Matt about that on Sunday, because I know Matt's gonna have opinions on Pete Rose, but I guess man, Father, we're gonna have to stick away from sports then, I suppose.
Well, yeah, like I said, I enjoy playing them, but I just have not followed them for many, many years, because I've had a very different
I guess you got a good reason,
life-changing decision when I was 17, so I haven't followed it as much.
Fair enough. Well, Father, on that note, of course, we went longer than I anticipated and planned, but that's just how it's going to be. We hope you all enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed the show, Father. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. That was fun. It's going to be one of the easier shows ever, because we just had so many things to talk about. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. You know, I hope everyone else did too. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We're going to have lots of content. Father's going to have more content. I'm going to have more content. We have 5 or 6 other hosts who are going to be awesome. Really, I've seen some of their shows already. They're really good. You guys are going to love it. but you're only going to watch the stuff if you click the notification bell. We're learning this with our other channel, that people subscribe and then they just forget because they never get notified. So subscribing actually doesn't, it matters. It's nice, but actually the biggest thing is the bell, because then you get a notification that says, hey, here's a video. And then you're going to see the video and it says Father Geckle talking about Pete Rose. And you're like, wow, I want to watch that. You know, that sounds exactly what I'm going to spend my afternoon doing. So please do that. And please share, because this is a very new channel, as you see, and we need to get the word out. We want people to watch this and to, have interesting perspectives on current affairs, current topics. We're going to get plenty of stuff into philosophy, perhaps a little bit of theology, history, movies, books. I actually really want to do a book review here coming up. Maybe I'll talk to you about it, Father. I don't know if you know the book, but it's actually can never remember the name of it. So we'll have to talk about it at a different time. But it is pretty much a defense of the common criticisms of the Catholic Church. So the Crusades, the Inquisition, the support of Hitler. It's really, really good. And I will do a review of that sometime in the coming weeks. Highly recommend it, etc. There's a lot of stuff we're going to do. So please subscribe, like, comment, all of that stuff. And we will see you guys next Friday and also on Saturday. Don't forget, live show this Saturday, June. I wish, I would love it if it was June. January 4th. At 4 p.m. Eastern time. Till then, Father, God bless.
All right. God bless.